I had words to make a day for you, I'd sing you a morning, golden and new. I would make this day last for all time. Give you a night deep in moonshine. If I had words to make a day for you, I'd sing you a morning, golden and new. I would make this day last for all time. Give you a night deep in moonshine. Welcome to Mirador Television. Break an egg.
Well, good morning. Mirador Television, broadcasting from Lewes in East Sussex, the county town. And they're just a few faithfuls at the moment, but we're growing all the time. Those of you who caught Tony Johnson's video of Neville fire celebrations seem to enjoy what you saw, and we'll have more of that. But let's just talk about the things of general interest just for the moment, and that is that the weather is calm this morning. The trees are absolutely stock still, even though the forecast is for a gentle breeze as the day goes by. But the clouds aren't zipping along either, so the breeze is going to come. Watch out for what sort of hat you wear. And I think I better sort of make sure that my hat can be seen. There's the sort of hat you wear, because it could still go barreling down the street. But the weather is quite calm at the moment. We're expecting a high of 14 degrees, so it's reasonably chilly. I don't think you should go out in summer clothing. Although I am amazed that people like the postman and the traffic wardens and that sort of thing, they all seem to wear shorts almost up until Christmas. There we go. So the no chance of rain. Well, there is. This is sort of a 17% chance of rain, which normally means no rain. And certainly there are no threatening clouds. In fact, I can see a bit of blue over there. So probably not a bad day today. As I say, watch out, because once that breeze gets going, even though it's supposed to be a gentle breeze, it can take your hat and do awful damage. Let's quickly turn to the headlines. And of course, the rail crash near Andover is concentrating the minds of people other than the conference in Glasgow, which gets underway today with world leaders trying to decide whether in fact they can save the planet, which is what it really boils down to, I suppose. But the train crash, fortunately nobody died, but there were dozens of injuries which took people to hospital, and dozens more where people were able to be treated on the ground. And the railway companies, the safety people, are looking into it to see what happened. There's reports of a big bang, and essentially what happened, as I understand it, is that a train hit an object and derailed, and it knocked out the signalling system, so the second train coming didn't know that it was there and slammed into it. Luckily, it would appear that not as bad as some tunnel crashes that have happened in the past in history. One very, very bad one in the mid-1800s in Clayton Tunnel, which is the tunnel just outside Brighton. So these crashes do happen. Okay, let's go to the newspaper headlines. Heat is on as the PM warns COP26 can't be a cop-out. The Guardian, Johnson to world leaders, we are 1 minute to midnight. And for once, it appears that Boris is looking worried. I think that he's listening to good advice about climate change, beginning to realize that the thunderstorms that we get in the middle of the summer and then again in the middle of the winter aren't accident. The changes in the climate and the weather patterns are threatening the planet. And he's now decided to take the lead since the conference is in Glasgow, and he is able to take prime position to tell everybody else, get with it. Some countries are coming with, yes, let's follow a fairly strict pattern of cutting back on emissions. There are others like China that have said, no, we're not going to commit to anything. But they're all under one roof, and here's an opportunity for them to actually talk about it and perhaps come up with something. The only thing that I find it worries me, and this is not political in any sense, but people who for instance, will laud the Green Party. Now, the Green Party has a good title. It's green. It's looking after the things which we all want looked after. Well, most of us want looked after, and yet it tends not to communicate any more than any other political party. And so I'm not having a go at the Greens. I'm having a go at everybody. They do not communicate properly. They only tell you what they want you to hear, and as a consequence, the sort of influence that they should have on this conference, I think, is muted, because when you get behind closed doors and examine some of their ideas, they're nonsense. At least they are politically. Let's just go further on, because I am in danger of becoming political there, and I don't mean to be. All I'm saying is that this is becoming an issue, and I understand why Boris is getting concerned, because it is an issue which we've got to face. And if they don't actually, as one newspaper columnist said, if they don't come away with some deal from this couple of days in Glasgow, then the world is in trouble. And as Boris has said, famous one-liner, 1 minute to midnight. Limited G20 curbs on coal lease is a huge way to go at the climate summit. So when we're talking about fossil fuels, it's got to be a key thing, because we are still using heavily fossil fuels throughout the world. And these are the things which are the most dangerous. That's the Financial Times. The Mirror, the heat is on. And they, once again, take up the theme of the climate change and really urge world leaders to get to grips with things. Let's see, the I is, if Glasgow fails, then the whole thing fails. And it says that the G20, the world is split. For those of you who don't know, and those of you who do, forgive me if I explain just a little. The world is split into two industrial groups. There is G7, which are the richest and most industrialized nations, of which the UK is one of them. And then there is the G20, which is the next group down, who are industrialized, but not quite as sophisticatedly and as heavily as those in G7. G20 met last week, and they came back with a very watered down demand for climate change and for these emission counting, if you like, the standards by which every country should follow to stop its harmful emissions. So the people aren't terribly happy about what happened at G20. And if that's what the I is saying, is if this group at the moment, who are world leaders, come unstuck in Glasgow, then the whole thing that was talked about last week, even though it was mild, it will come crashing down. The Daily Mail, Boris, we can't let COP26 be a cop-out. Right, I mean, it is interesting, because these are seasoned commentators, and often Boris will act the buffoon while really doing some serious thinking. I'm not defending him again. I'm just making an observation as a journalist. But now the seasoned journalists are saying he's looking a bit haggard. He's looking a bit drawn. For once, he's realized how alarming this is. And for once, he's faced with world leaders, global leaders, and to persuade them can sometimes be very, very difficult because they all look after things in their own backyard. And the Daily Express, which supports the government, makes him rather more forceful, is the Prime Minister. What on earth are you playing at? And that is the comment on the G20 last week. And now the present COP, this word COP, it keeps always was a COP, a chief of party. And the leaders really have got to come to grips with it. So the Daily Express is reflecting the fact that our Prime Minister is a very worried man. The Daily Telegraph, EU chief accuses the UK of seeking Brexit clash. Well, Macron and a lot are still on about the Northern Ireland Protocol and the fishing war. I think that Macron's behaviour just shows he's not alone. He's a buffoon. And he's not alone. There are a lot of buffoons in charge of the world at the moment, and it's a bit alarming and a bit worrying. But Macron does not behave like a statesman in any sense of the word. And the fact that he's urging almost let's lay siege to the UK. We'll stop sending goods, we'll stop sending fish, we'll cut off their electricity. We're back to the Middle Ages, aren't we? Let's lay siege to this place. We'll cut off their water, cut off their food supply, and eventually they'll give in. I mean, it just absolutely, the fact that it's farcical what he's doing, although it can be very practical and very harmful, is how do we have world leaders who think this way? I mean, how do we? And yet, it's the one great weaknesses in all democracies. But the democratic process does not weed out the idiots because there are systems to put people in place, and those are self-serving systems, mostly called political parties. So anyway, the Times, the Prime Minister, is a last chance on climate. They're reflecting Boris's concern. And in fact, papers who independently decide what's important to their readers, if a number of the papers who would normally be competitors are getting together and saying, hey, look, we're on Boris's side. We're actually saying just how much he's worried about this climate change issue and this particular conference. Then I think we have something to worry about. As I say, reading between the lines or reading between the headlines. Now, the Metro, the London paper, trains crash in tunnel horror. The crash took place near Andover. So for those of us in this part of the world, there's many a time that we've been through Andover Station, particularly if we're just going to places like Littlehampton or just a bit Chichester or so on. So we are aware of that line, and that's where this train crash occurred in the tunnel. Luckily, no fatalities, but some injuries. And I don't think they'd be described as life-threatening, but enough for the injured to go to hospital. And it's nearer to Salisbury, I suppose. It's a little bit further away, but nonetheless, we need to be concerned. Is there a safety issue here? If one train comes off the rails and disables the signalling system, surely that system must be able to flash an alarm. Hey, we're out of service. Every other bloody computer, every other Trifid that I see has the capability of doing that. I'm sorry, we cannot do this. You please try later. Well, if they can't do that on an emergency system on the railways, then perhaps we're all in trouble. The sun, it's got to go. It's starting to veer back towards the star. It's taking different stories. Cowell quits telly role, and it says Simon Cowell, for those of you who care, is going to do much less television. Personally, I think the man has done quite a good job with his Britain's Got Talent and so on. is you can sneer at it, but I find it sometimes when I watch quite hypnotic to see who's going to come on next and what they're going to do, and really discovering some very, very good talent. But anyway, Cowell is quitting his telly role. He wants more family time, and he wants to do other projects. Doesn't everybody want to do that? And the Daily Star. Bang goes bonfire night. Well, don't be too alarmed if you're down here, because I looked up, once I read this headline, I looked up the weather forecast locally, and we seem to be all right for bonfire night. It's going to be a bit breezy, a bit cloudy, but all in all, not too bad. And let's hope that that holds. But other parts of Britain, where we must remember that bonfire night isn't peculiar to Lewes. The only thing is with Lewes is the size and immensity and the history of it. But the rest of the country like to celebrate Guy Fawkes, and it's an opportunity to let off fireworks and probably, after COVID, let off steam. But the weather is going to disrupt a lot of it around the country, and so the Star says, bang goes bonfire night. And that's it. That's a roundup of the papers. Let me just say to you, the other prime concern, I think, is are we going to have a winter of discontent? And apparently, the binmen in Glasgow have gone on strike just to make their point to all the people who are visiting. And of course, we've had the Brighton strike. And is that the tip of the iceberg? One doesn't know. But anyway, it's a very much concern, I think, that we after our economy, even though the Bank of England and the Chancellor and so on all say it's in good shape, have got many underlying problems. And if those problems spill over into discontent of the workforce, then we are in for a winter of discontent. And the one thing we don't really need is a winter of discontent. We've just been through tough times, thank you, and we would prefer not to go through more as the winter encroaches. Right, very quickly, very briefly, I've been on for 17 minutes this morning, but as of Wednesday, we will be going to an hour-long morning program from 8 o'clock until 9 o'clock. And each morning, you won't just see me, and some people will breathe a sigh of relief. I will have with me a co-host. And these won't necessarily come from the world of journalism. On Wednesday, when we kick this off, Stuart Dolby, who is our a climate change expert, if you like, except really it's energy that he's an expert in, a former Financial Times journalist, and he will join me for the morning. And we will attempt to get hold of people who matter, who care, and do some interviews. And eventually, we hope that this will segue into letting you on the air and us doing some phone-ins during this period. Fergus Wood, who is a wine expert, our wine expert, returns, and he is going to have a dual role. He'll do his usual wine summary, but also he's going to host one morning. And so is Andrew Sloan, grizzly hairdressers, the man who stars in our Snipchat program, which is about to be properly launched after several pilots, and he will join me as well. So we're getting different views. So expect perhaps some sparks to fly a little bit. I almost said it, didn't I? I didn't mean it. It's sparks to fly on this program, because we will have different views, and particularly if you start to become involved, then off we go. So that's starting on Wednesday, and then on we anticipate that we will be broadcasting from our studio, which overlooks School Hill, on Friday from 6 until 10, and we'll try to cover what's happening in Bonfire for you, shots of the parade, and a couple of people to chat about the what's going on there. Most people know in Lewes what's going on, but there are many people that huge followings to any sort of streaming of Bonfire in other parts of the world. So I expect we'll get our share, and we hope that we can bring you the news and the views, along with the other broadcaster who does a fairly good job, Rocket Radio, set up specially for Bonfire. It will be broadcasting, of course, in sound, but also they stream their programs. So you've got two outlets of on-the-spot television streaming from Lewes, and undoubtedly there will be other people who do it on their phones. So you should have a plethora of stuff. But if you wish to join us, join us. We can be as good fun as anything else. And then on the 15th, we will be starting an afternoon program in which I will kick it off. But we're bringing in mostly females to talk from 5 until 6, see what's been going on in the day, and also look at some of our programs, such as the wine making program, the gardening program, our automobile program, and the other things that you've been used to before we got kicked so badly by lockdown. So we are fighting back. We're almost there. 1 or 2 little problems to squeak by, but in the long run, hopefully everything will turn out okay. So do join us. Right, I've been on the air 21 minutes. It's now 8:22 in Lewis. Perhaps not a bad day. We'll see how things go. Tiddle pip for now. Until tomorrow, although you never know, we popped up over the weekend because of the weather, and we thought that we should warn people about the weather. So far, it's as I said, it's very nice out. It's going to be a little bit chilly. Oh, hang on, did I see a raindrop? Because we're not supposed to have rain. There's only about 15% of chance of rain, and that decreases throughout the day. So I don't think you need your brolly, but you will need your woolies a little bit. 14 degrees is not that warm, and by golly, I think there is a spatter of rain. Be careful out there. The breeze hasn't started yet. My trees are dead stock still. But if they are, watch out what you wear on your head, because it won't sit there for very long. Till tomorrow, or if something happens later today, if world leaders punch one another on the nose, or if Macron stamps his little feet in the channel, splash, we'll let you know. Till then, toodle pip. A toodle pip indeed. Yes, here we go. But I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand.